Welcome to the Genetic Code. I'm your host, Jeanette Collins. This podcast is designed to take you one episode at a time on an intimate journey of your own personal transformation. Each podcast will have tools and techniques for you to practice in your daily life to create the very best version of you. Let's get started. Meditate. This episode is one I have looked forward to for a while now. I have currently been meditating consistently 1 or 2 times a day for 7 years now. Let's first talk a little bit about what meditation is not. This way, maybe you'll get a new perspective on what meditation possibly could be. I know the word meditate probably brings up some sure images and ideas in your mind, like it did mine, like sitting in the lotus pose, fingers touching in the mudra, and chanting or just being outwardly silent. Meanwhile, on the inside, there's a party of thoughts going on, with the main theme being, what's this supposed to do for me again? When I started playing with meditation over 25 years ago, I had read a book about it and wanted to try it, because the piece that was talked about in that book was what I was craving a whole lot more of. My first attempts at meditation were hard for me because I had the preconceived notion that I was supposed to stop the thoughts in my brain completely so I could experience true meditation, to get to that truly quiet place within me so that I could get all the answers to life. I didn't know much more about it than that. So my sitting in the pose of a meditator, as I believed it was supposed to be, was quite a challenge because it hurt my knees. And my back got tired. And even when I would softly say, "Oh," the thoughts in my head and the feelings in my body were so loud and overwhelming, I would eventually stop because I was sure I was doing it wrong. It has taken me years of practice to learn more about what it's not than what meditation really was. Meditation doesn't mean no thoughts. It doesn't mean the pose that you're in either. It doesn't mean being so still with your body and so disciplined in your mind that you somehow just slip into nirvana. I was beginning to experience that meditation was more than just sitting quietly and feeling for answers. Here are some examples of what I have done to meditate and the results of my efforts and experiences. For me, I decided to break down why meditation was calling me to the experience. I came to the bottom fact that there was something in the depths of my own being that was knowledgeable, wise, and loving, and had my heart's desires in mind. I could feel that every time I was even remotely silent for any brief amount of time. Sometimes it happened when I was just looking at nature, or when I would first start to wake up in the morning, or as I was drifting asleep at night. I kept having these brief moments where it felt as though I could almost remember something so profound and exciting, but it was just barely what seemed like out of my reach. That was enough to inspire me to experiment with ways to get in touch with this part of me that I could sense was deep, deep within me. It was like playing in a stream because you love water, and all of a sudden a gold coin floats to the top. At first I thought it was a fluke, an accident, for something so lovely to be found. But as I kept going, it began to feel like a treasure. I will only share with you what has been my personal experience, and you decide what's best for you. So at first, I tried many different kinds of guided meditations, and I always felt so let down when it was over because, you see, I am of the personality that I don't thrive if someone else is telling me what and when to imagine seeing something in my mind's eye. Those kind of meditations, they just didn't serve me the way I needed. I'm a very independent, self-creating, non-conforming individual, and I found that I needed something much freer and open to possibilities than a guided meditation. Remember, this was my experience and desires. You choose what sings to your heart. I don't believe there's just one way of meditating for our experience. I am only sharing different ideas and possibilities so your mind and heart can get creative for you. Each of us have a being within the depths of our own being that's connected to all that is and ever was or could be. My desire was to quench this thirst I had within me, to experience more of life and what it had to offer. I wanted to experience more than anything, being in this world, but not of it. I had great desires since I was a small child to experience the things that I had read that Jesus had done, or other great teachers. Jesus just happened to be the one I liked because I was most familiar with his teachings. I knew there was something within me that had access to healing, abundance, joy, gratitude, the mystical, and so much more. So off and on, for quite a few years, I would try different ways to meditate. I was as consistent as I could be, mostly because it was such a new concept to me, and I was trying to learn from books or what a few others had said to do to learn how to meditate. I was always asking the question, what will meditation bring in my life? In all those years, I had had some wonderful moments in my attempts at meditation. What I had settled on was lying down flat on my back inside my closet and just breathing for an hour, because that's about how long it took for my babies to take a nap. I liked this process because I was having times when I would be in the middle of my meditation when an answer or an idea would come to me that I had asked about months ago, or sometimes just days. I'd learned pretty good, after almost 20 years of practice, how to get my body to just lie still and me not fall asleep. Keeping me awake but very relaxed was why I chose the floor without a pillow, just laying there with my eyes closed, because I hardly ever fell asleep. My body was also getting really conditioned to be still. In fact, I could feel my body start preparing for my meditation as I would just think about it and the time that I was planning for that day to use for my meditation. I had been going through some really difficult times for a couple of years now in my marriage, and late at night when everyone else was in bed, sometimes around 11 p.m. to 12, I would walk outside in the dark and ask questions about how to open my heart bigger, to be more loving, how to create a better, more loving marriage. I could see that if something didn't change, it would come to an end. The year was 2008. It was in the fall, and I had been out walking that night again, asking for guidance, to know what I needed to do. This night, I walked until after 2 a.m., and then I came in to go to bed. The family was asleep, and I quietly climbed into my bed, careful to not disturb my husband. I laid my head down on the pillow and closed my eyes. I was instantly standing outside in my bare feet, in an environment I didn't recognize. For one, it was daylight here in this new environment, and I had just been at night. I was so confused. I knew I had just closed my eyes, and I was so aware of the fact that this wasn't a dream. I started looking around to see what to do. There was a beautiful woman sitting there, and I was filled with so much peace and love. I walked over to her and I said, "I don't know where I am, and I feel really confused about how I got here." She smiled, and she said, "I want you to meet my brother." Then she gave me a name. I turned around, and this man walked out from the back of the house, came up to me, and we began to talk for what seemed like hours. My heart and body were so overcome with this all-encompassing love. It wasn't so much romantic love, but expansive and all-inclusive. I felt so familiar here, yet it wasn't really familiar to me at all. I knew this man, and I knew whatever exchange we were making would have future consequences for a great purpose. My heart was ready to burst. Then I could hear my husband call me, and I turned to where I heard his voice. I really wanted to stay here and learn more. I could feel me leaving somehow, and I turned back to the man that I had had so much love and a great conversation with. And he spoke and he said, "It's okay, go. I'll wait for you. We'll come together in the right time." Then I shot straight up in my bed, very confused and filled with this awful sadness. I had felt the bigness of my heart and love, and I desired to know more, but I didn't know how to get back to wherever it was I had gone. For 3 days I sobbed with an uncontrollable grief. I started to think I was crazy and that maybe I just needed help. So I went to my closet to meditate. I laid flat on my back, closed my eyes, and asked a silent prayer. If this experience that I've had of me and this other man was just a dream, I need to forget it all now so I can move forward with my life. But if it was something real and just hasn't happened yet, could the grief and pain leave only and I keep the experience? It was instantaneous. The grief and distress were suddenly gone, completely gone. The only thing that was left was joy and hope and possibility that remained to accompany my experience that I'd had. Through many different experiences and reasons that I won't discuss here, by October of that same year, I was peacefully divorced. And a whole new life was beginning for me and my kids. That was 15 years ago now. I have learned more and more about meditation since, and I've experienced those quiet, intentional times that I was sitting or laying in my meditations and was drawing information for me, for my life, from the depths of somewhere I didn't know. I really wanted to refine my abilities and to understand possibly what I was doing and how to do it better. I had heard about Dr. Joe Dispenza from a good friend, and I attended a few of his lectures and workshops. I am recommending you to check out his work if you feel so inspired to. I have a lot of beautiful meditations that he's provided that showed me how to go deeper within and to change me and create more of my own life intentionally. The work he does in his meditations were more aligned with my soul and inner self than anything I'd ever come across yet. So I practiced faithfully 1 or 2 times a day after I first found his work. That was 7 years ago now. Whenever anyone asks me what mode of healing or guidance I prefer, I always say meditation. This is because the practice of me being in my own silence and surroundings and surrendering to that silence has been my greatest guide and has changed me more than any other thing ever has. When you think about this, from the day you were born, you've been learning all about the world and relationships around you. You're extremely familiar with the events, laws, rules, and guidelines of this physical world. Well, that's good. At some point along the journey, though, we begin to ask bigger questions that no one on the outside of you has the real answers to. All that I could find really were ideas and opinions and some very physical reality rules of this physical world. For me, religion and other things couldn't answer my questions, and the learning I was getting from books was awesome, but I knew that could only take me so far. I wanted to learn, grow, and heal my childhood and younger life traumas, and be able to show others and serve others to heal and enjoy their life too. As I've practiced meditation and being silent with my inner self, I have been creating a beautiful relationship with the unknown within me. I have had many, many meditations where nothing outside of me getting up and feeling lighter had happened. But that in and of itself is profound. To be able to change how you feel on the inside is amazing. First, you have to choose to become familiar with that deeper part of you by intentionally closing your eyes, stilling your body, and listening to something that isn't always on the outside of you. When I put a meditation on and the sound comes through those headphones, and my eyes are under a blindfold, it becomes easier to not think about my familiar outside world, but to surrender to that quiet that is deep within me. I remember as a child asking my mother or my siblings if when they sat quiet, could they hear the pulsing quietness? I found it so inviting to me, and I was so curious that most people I asked didn't know what I was talking about. I have since found that deep, pulsing silence again, over and over in my quiet meditations. I have had the privilege of seeing future events that apply directly to me, and I have had the joy of watching some of them unfold over time. These experiences through meditation have given me more and more experiences to know that what I'm experiencing through my connection to that deep silence within me is more real than the world here appears to be. I have yet to have an experience that hasn't left me a better being than before, and more compassionate, loving, and understanding to others. These results definitely inspire me to continue forward. My desire here is to do my best to inspire you, to get curious about what the being within the depths of you has in store for you. Most of the experiences that I have had were beyond any healing I could have ever done any other way. The deep greatness within knows the exact ways and means to heal things with such permanency that you and the ways you view your life are forever changed to a greater, more loving way. What seemed to be the trauma past for me is now one of my greatest teachers. And sure, it was hard at times and deeply challenging. But it was my initiation into the life I was desiring to have, to teach me to love when hate was present, to teach me to be compassionate when everything around me called for its opposite. I have been on an amazing journey of transforming myself and watching the world around me change. We each came with all the stories and experiences and opportunities to allow us to expand and grow, or to not. The choice is really ours. And anyone who wants to become great at something will be given the experiences to find that greatness within, as they overcome the false beliefs that their past experiences have diminished them or left them a victim. So like a fish, when you pull it out of the water and it thrashes about in the world of the unfamiliar, and then you put it back into the water, the fish's consciousness about the life it once had in the water is expanded. We have a great consciousness that has limitless abilities to expand and to learn and to grow. So let's recap what we've been talking about. Choose to make meditation and learning to be silent a daily practice. Be curious what you may experience in the great unknown. Just like when you were born physically, you grew up, wanted to explore more of this world around you. Now explore the world within you and go into dimensions and experiences that are custom-made just for you and your joy. The silence will take you there and give you gifts that only the silence can. So as I said earlier, if you are interested in some amazing meditations, to use them, go to Dr. Joe Dispenza's website and purchase them, whatever calls to you. The website is very easy. It's drjoedispenza.com. The greatest gift that I have received when I chose to start daily practice of meditation was the love and appreciation that grew within me towards me for showing up for myself. There were many times when I didn't want to be consistent and feel the emotions of my past. But as I was willing to surrender up my old beliefs and stories, I freed up the inside of me to be able to experience something much, much greater. I invite you this week to incorporate into your daily practice meditation. Give yourself the gift of being in the silence with you and the unknown deeper you. Take a little time each day to have your meditation. If you need to start with 15 minutes at first, go for it, and increase it as you practice. In time, you will find that your daily practice of going into meditation to be silent and grateful will be what you find yourself doing automatically during the day with your eyes wide open. Many times I find myself in a noisy, busy room, and all of me is immersed in some inner silence that fills me up. Those are the things I work towards, to live always connected to that greater source within me. So choose to start today and practice showing up for you each day, because you want to experience more peace, more knowledge, more love, and more joy in this life. Thank you for joining me on this podcast. Please share this with others and tune in next week for another chance to learn, grow, and become a part of the greatest journey on earth, the journey to transform yourself, to empower yourself, and to extend that love to the world. You are worth it.